Welcome to r/top posts, where OP steals an engagement ring in the middle of a proposal. Our next Reddit post comes from r/am I the butthole. Am I the butthole for interrupting a marriage proposal on Valentine's Day because it was actually my ring? I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I went out to dinner with my girlfriend, who's 30, on Valentine's Day. We went to an upscale restaurant. Honestly, this whole thing would have been avoided if I did the proposal the way I wanted, but I knew from talking with my girlfriend that she wanted something in public, but intimate, with champagne and good food and other aspects. So after being together for 3 years, having been living together for 1 year, and knowing that my girlfriend was getting a little antsy about marriage, I decided to save up, buy the ring, and set up the proposal. Her friend Ronnie, who helped me pick the ring, was awesome enough to get it on video for us. I talked to the waitstaff as I made the reservation, and they agreed to put the ring on the red velvet cupcake that she would get for dessert. She always gets the red velvet. I had a whole speech. Dinner goes great. Ronnie prepped the video from the corner. Dessert comes out and there's no ring. I give the waitress a look, and she seems confused. As I'm trying to figure out what happened while trying to not tip off my girlfriend, I hear, "Oh my god, yes!" Turning, I can see a girl holding up a ring, and the guy looks both stunned and panicked. There are claps, cheering, whistles, and happy tears. The lady hugs the stiff, numb guy, so I get up and go over and look at the ring, which she isn't wearing because, surprise, surprise, it's not her size. So I tap the guy on the shoulder and tell him there was a mix-up in the kitchen, show both of them the email with the receipt and the image of the ring, and take it back before either can respond. The guy looks relieved, and the woman starts yelling at me about stealing the ring. The guy pipes up that he hadn't actually bought any ring and that it wasn't for her. She stares at him, and it looks like she wants to cry. But the guy continues, basically word vomiting that he was actually going to wait until March to tell her that he wanted a break or to break up. I could only half hear because she started to cry very loudly. He didn't want to ruin Valentine's Day for her, but he had to be honest. I dipped after that because it was really awkward and no longer my issue, which is why I might be the butthole. I went back to my table, quietly explained the situation to my girlfriend, and she took the ring, slipped it on, and smiled. She told me we could do another proposal, but not to make a scene out of it now. I could tell she was sad for the other girl. But now, my face is on a bunch of videos in my area, showing me take the ring and making this lady cry after she said yes, without context. I've gotten a lot of hate for it, and when told the entire thing, I get hate for not waiting for the moment to be over and humiliating the poor girl. Am I the butthole? I didn't continue with the proposal right after that happened. I didn't do the speech, the knee, the whole bit. I just quietly explained to her we finished our food and left. Well, OP, you weren't the one who screwed up. The restaurant screwed up. And, how long are you supposed to wait? What if they dip out and steal your ring? I will say, though, your girlfriend/fiance now, I guess, handled that very gracefully. I think you may have picked a winner, OP. Our next Reddit post comes from r/confessions. When I was a kid, I used to scam PDF files for money. When I was a kid, there was a late-night commercial for an adult phone line called Quest Chat. Basically, it was like a dating app, but on a phone call. I started prank calling the line just for fun, but I noticed that a lot of men would try to keep talking to me even after they knew that I was a kid. They would steer the conversation towards intercourse every time. Eventually, I started something of a small business. It worked like this. I would post a voice ad saying that I was very young, looking for older men. The men would send me messages or requests to chat live. I'd tell them to call me on my cell phone, which was a fake number, instead, so the call couldn't be recorded. This was to build trust and hopefully get the real phone number. Then I would record the call myself and screenshot all of our text messages. I'd make sure that I stated my age, usually between the ages of 9 and 15. They would ask for nudes, send nudes of themselves, tell stories of times they'd abused girls, try to arrange in-person meetings, etc. With every text and call, I would gather evidence against them. Then I'd ask for money. The statute of limitations on this expired years ago, but I technically never blackmailed them. It was an unspoken understanding of what the consequences of not ponying up the cash would be. They'd send me the money via PayPal or a Walmart money card. Then I would take the evidence and send it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. You may be wondering why I snitched anyways, even after they paid me. Well, that's because they were PDF files whether they paid me or not. Why'd I ask for the money in the first place? Because I got to screw over PDF files and buy snacks. What's the downside? With all this Epstein stuff, some people are surprised by how many PDF files exist. But I'm not. It was extremely easy to find men for this. If you gave me 20 minutes to find 5 grown men who'd be willing to do it with a 12-year-old girl, I'd tell you gave me 10 minutes more than I needed. This is not an issue of the elite or the wealthy. Quite frankly, the only thing stopping many men from being in the Epstein files is a lack of money, not a lack of desire. Ladies, many of you are married to one right now. A solid 75% of men that I spoke to were married, and at least half of them had kids of their own. Some of you may be angry that I screwed these men over, but I just say, from the bottom of my heart, I don't give one single solitary F. My only regret is that I didn't do it to more of them. PDF lives don't matter. This feels like a very dangerous hobby, but then again, Batman also has a dangerous hobby, and Batman's a hero, so... Our next Reddit post is from Investment OK. I'm a 34-year-old woman, and I bought a home 3 years ago with my boyfriend, who's 38. We lived there with my son, our 4 dogs, and a cat until 6 months ago when everything changed. He works out of town during the summer, and I noticed some of the stories he was telling me about his trips weren't adding up. I started getting a gut feeling and confronted him where he just called me insecure and jealous. Gaslight City, population me. I tried shaking it off, and then I saw his ex, whom he told me he was no contact with, commenting on his profile picture. I went to bed that night and was feeling pretty low and unsure about how to shake this feeling. That night in my dream, a specific box in a storage room full of 35 boxes and totes came to me. I woke up the next morning and looked through the box. It was full of honeymoon pictures, wedding night pictures, etc. I didn't mention this earlier, but my boyfriend told me our entire relationship that he had never been married. This time, I didn't even trust him to tell the truth. I went straight to a background check to get it myself. I found out that this man wasn't just married in the past, but he's still currently married. I own a house with him. In my state, his wife has legal rights to his half of my home. I was appalled. I confronted him about the pictures, and he was only focused on me invading his privacy. He said the marriage was fake and only to appease his religious family. I said no words, and I showed him the background check, and he just made fun of me for being in middle school and being jealous. This happened 5 months ago, and I've spent my life savings on legal fees to finally get him to agree to buy out and leave me and my son alone to heal and live in peace. I get to keep the house and some of my pride, knowing that he can't lie to me ever again. This was long-winded, but here's a small examples of lies in the past. He got caught Snapchatting a stripper and told me it was his cousin. He showed my boudoir photos to his coworkers and made fun of me for being fat. I'm not fat. He's medically overweight. He told me he can talk to anyone he wants because I text my ex, who is my son's father, and we only text about my son's basic needs or pick up and drop off. He has a ring in his safe that he only pulled out when we were fighting to show me what I could have if I stopped being so unhappy and insecure. I write this to you from a hotel bed while I wait for my loan to close in 20 days. Then he can be legally removed from the home that I'd hoped to spend with him forever. I'm a 22-year-old woman, and my 26-year-old boyfriend is 5'2". I don't care about it, but he's clearly terribly insecure about this stuff. First, when we met on a dating app, he lied that he was 5'9", but when I met him, I could obviously tell that he wasn't. I'm 5'6", and he was shorter than me, but I ignored it and still had a good time with him. At some point, he got a little tipsy and started ranting about how women are shallow, and that's why he lied about his height, that nobody would ever give him a chance otherwise. And then he complained about how he still hasn't kissed a woman at the age of 26. I reassured him, I guess, told him it didn't matter to me, and I liked him. I asked his actual height, and we moved on. When we got into a relationship, we'd sometimes be walking together, and he would accuse me of eyeing the tall men, which I didn't even notice until he did, lol. Like, in public, I don't stare at random people, I just focus on whomever I'm with. But now that he pointed that out, I always noticed him staring at tall men, especially tall men with short girlfriends. Once we had a waiter who was a tall guy, and my boyfriend just got angry with him and accused him of trying to hit on me. The guy was just doing his job. For around a week, my boyfriend kept crying about this guy, asking me if I would leave him for that waiter. There's still a lot more weird stuff, like him texting my friends to find out if I'm cheating, sometimes making out with me too passionately in public, having a panic attack over my boss being tall, crashing out if I didn't moan loud enough while doing it. I'll just get to the point or I'll keep going on forever. So last night we got back from a bar and he was much drunker than I was. Like barely walking, puked while we were getting back home. He tried to do it with me, but I declined because I didn't feel comfortable doing that with someone barely conscious. He got sad and sat down at the table and out of nowhere started asking questions about my ex, the only other guy I've dated. The questions got more and more inappropriate, like he was asking me about his size down below and whether I did certain degrading acts with him, which I wouldn't do. I got irritated and said no to that stuff, but answered the height question honestly. I said that my ex was 6'2". He went batshit insane, started throwing things, punched the table, punched the wall, threw a chair, not at me, fell down, started sobbing while punching the floor. I just got scared and ran out of the room. I had a physically abusive father, and I'm scared of people getting aggressive like that. Today, he was angry at me and said I didn't love him because I should have comforted him and shouldn't have declined intercourse. He said that I must be just repulsed by him. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel sort of guilty and like a coward. I don't think the problem with this guy is his height, it's his personality. I mean, yeah, some girls wouldn't give him the time of day just because he's 5'2", but if he were 6'2" and acted like this, he'd still be insufferable. Our next Reddit post is an epic 3-part series. Here's part 1. Part 1 comes from a comment about cheating in r/relationship advice. Speaking once from the same perspective. My status, a married man in his early 30s. A few years back, after my wife had a kid, she didn't want to have intercourse at all for about a year. And I met this absolutely stunning 20-year-old girl at work. We started having lunch together every day and chatting on the internet all the time, flirting more and more. Then, one day after work, I went to her place. She was showing me around, telling me how she and her husband were remodeling everything. Then, we went down to the basement, and she sat on the dryer and sort of spread her legs. I kissed her and we did the deed. It was the most intense experience I've ever had to this day. I can still smell her. We ended up doing it about once a week for 3 months. If she was still around, I wouldn't think twice about doing it again. I was figuratively drunk on her. I couldn't think straight. All I was thinking about was her. Then she got cold feet because she knew that I was married with kids and ended it. I've never felt such gut-wrenching pain. I was devastated. I cried every night. I had to hide everything from my wife, including my pain. Now, 4 years later, I'm grateful that she ended it. My wife and I moved shortly after for work. I haven't seen her since. I still think about the experience, but I also know that I have too much to lose, and in my mind, I wouldn't do it, but who knows? I'm not 100% sure that I would have the strength to resist her. So the best thing to do is to evaluate what you have now versus what you could gain by getting involved with this person. I guarantee you your husband is 90% of what you want in life. 10% of that intoxicating love feeling is the other person. Don't let 10% be more valuable than 90%. Stop the flirting, stop contact if possible, and the infatuation will go away with time. Part 2, posted to r/divorce. The same poster said, "What's the best way to cut my wife off from my income? I moved out 2 months ago and we're getting a divorce. We haven't filed anything yet, but she's adamant about it, so I have no choice. We live in Wisconsin where it's a no-fault state and everything is divided 50-50. I made about $175K last year and she made $47K. Some of the money I made, $30K, is my own LLC. We have around $30K in cash, $192K in mortgage, $9K in credit card debt, $29K car loan, and $95K student loan. Of course, since I'm making most of the money, I want to protect my assets. I'd like to separate our checking account and split the bills in half. She'd have to pay around $1,800 in bills. Her monthly income is around $2,500. Is this something I can do, or is it a bad decision? Part 3. 1 year later, OP posts to r/breakups. How do I break up with my live-in girlfriend? She's been living with me for the past 2 years, supported me in many ways. One thing is, she doesn't work and she has substance abuse issues. In my mind, I tried to break up with her many times, but all I think of is how much I'll hurt her. The thing is, we don't really have a real relationship. We never have intercourse. She's not unattractive. I don't initiate it, and when she does, I turn her down usually. She's helping around the house most of the time, but mainly she does things she likes to do. I can't get myself to do it, but I have to. This has to end. How? Well, OP, I'd say one of the most important things is to stop making terrible life choices. That is step 1. That was r/top post from Reddit, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.